Thank you, and Merry Christmas to everyone. This is a wonderful day, a great holiday for us to celebrate our blessed Lord, his nativity in Bethlehem, and also with that as the center, for us to celebrate with our families and bring them together. And it's a great privilege to be with you, our EWTN family. I'd like us to do a somewhat special Christmas celebration. We thought about doing something on a special kind of Christmas carol. These are called Polish kolędy. The kolędy are a special type of Christmas carol, but to understand them, I want to give a little bit of background. And I have with me a friend, Robert Rauhut. He works at EWTN Germany and has been making programs here for us. Robert, welcome.
Hello,
welcome. Herzlich willkommen.
Great to be with you.
Good to be, and Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Thank you. Now, I have Robert on for a special reason. Robert, where were you born?
I have been born in Poland, in Poznań.
Poznań, ancient capital of the Polish kingdom. And you left there, though, when you were very young and moved where?
When I was 2 years old, I moved with my mother to Germany. My father had already moved to Germany, to Western Germany, to the city of Aachen, which is in the very west of Germany.
Yeah, and these were difficult times as solidarity was coming into conflict with the Polish government and threats from Soviet Union and East Germany at that time. So that was a risky time and a good place to get out of. But something that made it very interesting, you and I were talking about kalender, just in general, because I love them. I know you love them too, grew up with them. But you said something very interesting about the forcefulness of Polish Christmas carols and the gentleness of German ones. What was behind your comment?
I have grown up in both cultures and both traditions, so I'm familiar with the Polish and the German carol traditions.
And you speak both languages?
And I do speak both languages. Mm-hmm. So when I compare the two traditions, what's really eye-catching is that the Polish kolędy, the Polish carols, are a bit more happy, are more triumphant, are more expressive, whereas the German carols are a bit softer, more silent, more inward-going.
In fact, one of the most popular Christmas carols in the United States is Silent Night, which was written in Austria, near Salzburg.
It was written near Salzburg at the beginning of the 19th century, and it became the most famous carol throughout the world. It's been translated in over 320 languages and dialects, and it has an amazing history. It's really like the gospel spreading around the world. Just to quote 2-3 examples of this tradition, is that in 1914, during the First World War, British and German soldiers stopped fighting on Christmas Eve. They came together and they were singing that carol in what became known as the Peace of Christmas of 1914. So basically, for that night, the conflict stopped between the two parties and they were singing this carol together. And another American example is with Bing Crosby, who was singing that carol in his famous Christmas show of 1931, and there it became, this recording became so famous that it has been sold for more than 30 million copies throughout the world. So Bing Crosby made that song very popular in America.
Yes.
But the Americans have thought for a very long time that it's an American carol, and there has been some woman a couple of years ago who wrote a book on it, reminding the Americans that its origins are in the German language near Salzburg in Austria.
And this is something, because America is such a melting pot, so many different cultures, we take it for granted. But Silent Night, which is so gentle, so sweet, you know, in its mood and tone, and so dignified, you know, it evokes great dignity and prayerfulness as you sing it. This we take for granted as almost being American, because we accept Christmas carols from the French and Germans, and of course in my part of the world, in Chicago, Polish Christmas carols were just normal. But as you said, the Polish Christmas carols have a different mood. It's not, there's some very gentle, beautiful, Lulajże Jezu is a beautiful hymn, Śliczna Panienka. These are very quiet, gentle hymns, but it's different in that you see these hymns that use the type of music from the Polish royal court, the Polonaise.
Yes.
You mentioned that one of the calendar was from the coronation Polonaise of King Władysław.
The fourth.
Yes.
It's w żłobie leży, and the text is attributed to a confrère, a brother in spirit of yours,
Father Peter Skarga,
who was a Jesuit, and he wrote the text, and the music is taken from these coronation Polonaise of Władysław IV. So it's very triumphant, it's very outgoing, it's really expressing the joy of Christ becoming God, becoming man.
And that is a common approach in Polish. You know, Triumphant, you know, is another one that is a strong hymn, and Pace Bracie Jeno. These are hymns that are very strong. And I guess one of the reasons I want to discuss this difference is that hymns really communicate something of a theology. And sometimes we say, well, I like that hymn or I don't. But we have to pay attention to the meaning. And while the German Christmas carols come from a tradition in many ways rooted in Lutheranism, is that not correct?
Yeah, I mean, when we go to the very origins of the carol traditions, also the Anglo-Saxon carol singing, the English carols, which are famous, but also the German one, they started in the liturgy of the church in Latin, and then they were strongly centered in the congregations, the abbeys, the cloisters, and from there they entered really into more public life. And Martin Luther played an important role in German culture for the spread of carols, because he composed carols by himself, and the element of singing within the liturgy was very widespread in Protestant communities. So singing in Protestant communities attracted many people that they entered these churches. And as a sort of also counter-reaction, the Catholics had to start also singing and singing carols.
Yeah, and in fact, that's one of the reasons that Father Peter Skarga would write some of these carols, because a lot of Poland had become Lutheran, and the Jesuits were very influential in bringing back to Catholicism through the arts, like music and plays, and as well as our schools. So this was part of it, but it communicated something of this royal grandeur, but it was for the simple folks. That's one of the great things about the Polish calendar. They belong to the royal court style of music, but they're sung by peasants singing about Jesus Christ, their king, and his royal court is in the kind of stable where they all lived and worked.
Exactly. By entering that stable, you become part of the royal court. You become part of God's kingship. And many of these carols are very dense in their theological content. And, you know, it's more this proclaiming the gospel, explaining the gospel. But in the German carol tradition, we have very much this focus inside our hearts, which means basically being silent. This silence makes it possible that something new can be born. We have the Silesian mystic, Angelus Silesius, and he has expressed it so nicely that even if Christ was born 1,000 times, but he was not born once in our heart, Bethlehem would be futile.
I think for us to see that theology showed up in the gentle hymns like Silent Night, and the Polish kalender are getting across this royal dignity. We'll take a look and listen to these kalender, so please stay with us. Thank you and welcome back. I'm here with a wonderful group of people who happen to be from Poland, or some of them are of Polish descent but are American born. And they're going to share with us some wonderful Polish Christmas carols, which are called kolędy. And we also have a number of really wonderful, great Polish Christmas traditions, kind I grew up very much with. I'd like to introduce you, first of all, to Joseph Jok, who is an engineer here at EWTN. Joe, good to have you with us here on stage. Usually you're making sure that everything works. Now you're here being worked. That's a good thing. Would you tell us a little bit about this group of folks?
Well, this is a group of Polish Americans from both Birmingham and Huntsville. So we have quite a large group here.
Yeah,
today.
we do.
These groups get together pretty regularly, and so we kind of put this together to do some Christmas carols for.
Well, this is wonderful, and like I said earlier, we're going to hear a number of very traditional Polish Christmas songs. A lot of these go back to the 15th, 16th, and 17th, few in the 18th centuries. What are the importance of these hymns in the life of Polish people?
Well, you know, in America we have all these Christmas carols, and most of them are very secular.
Now they
tunes,
are, yeah.
Rudolph or Santa Claus.
Yeah.
But in Poland, the Christmas carols are all about Jesus, about the birth of Christ. And they're songs that people would have gone from village to village singing. And so, these date back, some of them date back to the 1400s. So some of them very old and some more recent, but these are very familiar songs to many Polish people, and so I hope to sing some of them.
Though my grandparents came 100 years ago, I grew up with these Christmas carols. They're very much part of our family life. Yeah. So our first one is one of my favorites. Well, all of them. I love them all. I listen to them regularly still. But the first one we'll hear is Dzisiaj w Bethlehem, which means today in Bethlehem. What do you know about this kalenda?
Well, this particular one dates back to, I believe, the 1800s. Mm-hmm. And a lot of these kalenda appeared in a book of Polish hymns that was written by a priest, actually. And this book kind of dates back to that time, so that's why the author of the song is anonymous. So we don't know exactly who wrote it, but it's been sung for a very long time, and it's one of the most popular.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, please start us off.
Right.
Thank you for that very beautiful song. The next one we're going to hear is one of the most gentle and lovely of the Polish kalenda. It's called Gdy Śliczna Panna. It means when the lovely or exquisite Virgin Mary was with our Lord, of course. We'll have a solo from Alexandra Hoffman, and everybody else will be joining in as well. while so many of the Kalendi have this strong sense of, these celebration, this is one of the very gentle ones, very sweet ones, and hope that you enjoy this as well.
Gdy śliczna Panna Syna kołysała, z wielkim weselem tak wielu śpiewała. Lili, lili, laj, moje dzieciąteczko. Lili, lili, laj, śliczna paniąteczko. Wszystko stworzenie, śpiewaj Panu swemu, pomóż w radości wielkiej sercu nemu. Lili, lili, laj, wielki królewicu. Lili, lili, laj, niebieski dziedzicu. Lili, lili, laj, wielki królewicu. Lili, lili, laj, niebieski dziedzicu. Sypcie się z nieba śliczni aniołowie, śpiewajcie Panu, niebiescy duchowie. Lili, lili, laj, mój wonny kwiateczku. Lili, lili, laj, w ubogim żółbeczku. Lili, lili, laj, mój wonny kwiateczku. Lili, lili, laj, w ubogim żółbeczku.
Something that is part of every ethnic community are traditions that show up in celebrating the various holidays. And one of the traditions that we have in the Polish community is known as Wigilia. This is a meal that is celebrated on Christmas Eve, the vigil. That's what Wigilia means. And this was a very special meal. We had those items together only on that day, and some things we only ate at that time. Now, Barbara?
Hello, Father.
You are from Kraków.
That is correct.
Yeah, so welcome to
Thank you.
Barbara Rzemba. And you grew up in Poland, and a custom that we still practiced and that was very much part of almost every Polish family is known as opłatki. We begin the Vigilia with opłatki. What is it?
Well, first of all, like it's set up here, typically you would have it maybe on a table, sitting on a plate with a little bit of hay, and that kind of symbolizes Jesus in the manger. And what like you said, we start the Vigilia with it. So before we even sit down, and obviously there is a prayer before we sit down, and then it's typically the father, the head of the family, that would share the opłatek with every family member. And then it's a custom that you go and exchange the wishes between one another, what you want to wish that person for the next year. And it's also, so it signifies the unity of the family, but it also is a time where you kind of want to forgive one another, you know, for everything that has happened, I guess, for the past year. So again, it's a unity and
Sure. And you know what is typically done is it's a form of bread. As a matter of fact, it's exactly the same as the bread we use at Mass. It's exactly the same kind of unleavened wafer that is eaten, though, as bread. And so this is very much part of what we do. And in my family, we had a slightly different tradition than most of the families I know. We would take two of them, put honey on it, and make an opłatek sandwich. And then break it off with the honey on it. So when we break it off, almost forgot too. The idea of placing it on a plate or right on the hay is that Jesus is the bread of life. And this bread, that's very much exactly like the Eucharistic bread, except it's not round, is placed on the manger hay like Jesus was. And that's part of the symbolism of it. So show us what would be done. So if I hold the opłatek,
you break it. Oops.
and a piece breaks off,
Yes.
and you take that piece and
I wish you health. I wish you all the luck. If it's, you know, me growing up being a child, you always wish for, father would say, you know, I wish you good grades, or, you know,
Right.
all the good things that you can think of.
and if it's mother, good behavior.
That's correct, yes. And then each one of them breaks it and eat a piece of
Right.
the opłatek.
And so you mutually exchange, and then from the piece that you break off, you go and take it to the other members of the family.
That's correct.
And we would go to all the members of the family, breaking off a piece of opłatek, and get a small piece and eat it, and then share with the others, wishing a blessing to everybody. And in that way, our Christmas Eve celebration would begin with these wishes of peace and goodness. I'd also add this one other thing. In my family, we also ate raw garlic. That made us sure we didn't get too close. Thank you, and welcome back. We are here with musicians and a choir of folks who are singing these great Polish Christmas carols called kolędy. And the next one is one of my own favorites. Again, I like them all, but this one, like myself, is just a little bit more rowdy. And it is called Triumphant Króla, Triumphs of the Heavenly King, Triumphant Króla Niebieskiego. And the triumphs that it's speaking of is about the birth of Christ, and that this is this great victory and celebration. What do you know about this kolęda?
Well, this particular one dates back to the mid-1700s, and this is obviously a very triumphant hymn, as the name suggests. And so this is one of the hymns that's typically sung at midnight mass on Christmas Eve.
Yeah, very much so. And partly because it's joining with the angels in their announcement to the shepherds. And that's the great triumph. So the heavenly host, which is God's army, is shouting out triumph, and so are we. Well, so, Joe, please.
Króla Niebieskiego, z nieba wysokiego, obudziły pasterzu, dobytku swego stróżu. Śpiewanie, śpiewanie, obudziły pasterzu, dobytku swego stróżu. Śpiewanie, Bogu wysokości, a ludziom pokój na niskości. Narodził się Zbawiciel, dusz ludzkich odkupiciel. Na ziemi, na ziemi, na ziemi. Narodził się Zbawiciel, dusz ludzkich odkupiciel. Na ziemi, na ziemi, na ziemi. Zrodziła Maryja Dziewica wiecznego Boga bez rodzica, by nas piekła wybawić, a w niebieskich postawić. Pałaca, pałaca, pałaca. By nas piekła wybawić, a w niebieskich postawić. Pałaca, pałaca,
Another distinctive element of Polish Christmas, like any other nation, is decoration. Christmas is a time that is very festive. And when you think about how gray the skies can be sometimes, and the leaves are gone, there are no flowers, people decorate inside the house. And there are some very, very special decorations. And Barbara Jemba will explain to us some of the most distinctive elements. First of all, let's talk about some of these decorations, these Christmas ornaments. Did you buy these at Walmart?
No, I did not. I believe they were brought from Poland by one of our colleagues. So yeah, as you can see, and obviously 100 years ago, you could not go to Walmart and purchase all of your decorations.
100, couldn't go there 40 years ago.
Exactly. So you had to be creative, and I'm assuming with all those long, long evenings when the winter was approaching, you know, women had, you know, a lot of times on their hands, and so majority of those decorations that you see here, they're made out of straw, and obviously you can use some dyes to dye them too, but also if you notice here, we have some, we have some crochet decorations as well. There are some additional ones that are made out of wood on this tree, so it was very natural. Some of them, we don't have it here, but you could also use fruit, for example, so walnuts.
Sure.
I've seen people put in colorful foil or papers and kind of looking like a little decorations.
And one of the nice things about the straw is that depending on how you pull it together, it has a certain shininess to it, and you know, it's clean straw. And so they would have that, and you get different nuances of light coming off of it as well. So that and if nothing else, there's plenty of straw in Poland, and
That is
like
correct.
a lot of other rural agrarian societies. So they learn to decorate with that. What else do we have here?
So I'm originally from Krakow, and one of the big traditions during the Christmas time, there's actually competition every year. Those are on display, and we have some smaller examples of those nativity scenes here on the table. And as you can see, they're very detailed, they're very colorful. Some of them that you can see on display in my hometown, they're as tall as we are, and some of them it takes years to build. There are things there that are put in motion, and typically, obviously, you always have Mary, Joseph, and baby Jesus, but people are very creative building those, and there's actually a museum in Krakow where you can go and see all of those that were winners.
And what do we call these decorations?
These are szopki, krakowskie szopki.
Exactly, and or Krakow szopki. And you can see that they look a lot like churches. Onion dome churches are fairly common in Eastern Europe, and so they have some of those elements as well as some of the elements of Gothic architecture mixed together, just like in Kraków and other cities in Poland.
That is correct. And then obviously we have two examples of the nativity scenes that were made out of wood, and one of them is just carved, the other one is pieces of the tree. So those were actually brought from Poland.
And what's nice is that you see that this is made from a birch tree. That, again, it's a tree that's part of the environment, and that celebration of Christmas using the things around them. And of course, it's not so much Santa Claus, it's Saint Nicholas.
Saint Nicholas.
Yeah,
yes.
he's, and you know, Saint Nikolai is the bishop who was very generous to the poor.
That's correct.
And it's not some guy that you see in a commercial. It's, it's the Catholic saint in that very Catholic country. This is wonderful, and what we like to do, it's great to have decorations, but you also want to eat. And so what we're going to do is take a look at some of the Polish celebrations of food, the kind of food that would be typical for the celebration of Christmas Eve, the Vigilia meal, and we'll be back with that in a second.
Kolędować
seated at a table, and a few of the guys are standing behind us, that contains a lot of the typical food that we ate on the Christmas Eve Vigilia, the traditional meal that Polish people have on Christmas Eve. And this has a few variations, but for the most part, I remember exactly the same kind of food being served only on the Vigilia. And we'd like to talk a little bit about that. Let's start off again with Barbara. What do we have here?
Well, as you can see, we don't have any meat products. That's one of the traditions that still a lot of people continue, where you're not supposed to have any meat products on your Vigilia table.
That was part of the day of abstinence. Christmas Eve was a day of abstinence in former times. And so the church didn't allow any kind of meat, but we could have fish.
Yes. And typically, you begin, really you sit down at the table where the first star appears. And that's usually really children's in a family, that's their job to go outside and spot the first star. It becomes an issue when we have overcast skies, then
Yes.
you don't really know where to start.
But you can still keep the kids out of your way while you're setting the table.
Yes. So our typical Vigilia really should contain 12 dishes. And it really, there are different theories about really why 12. From what I understand, it is because of the 12 months of the year. Personally, I only had Vigilia with 12 dishes once, and I could hardly move after that. So it is very hard to get to that 12.
We always had 7 different dishes. We could have 7, and everything that my grandmother made was white. All the food was white. So that was one distinctive element. But that's not always the case about everything being white, but in our case it was.
So depending which part of the Poland you grew up, there might be some variation, but typically you're going to see either red borscht, which is made out of beets, and it's going to contain uszkas, which is those little raviolis, kind of, they look similar to pretty much ear, and that's what the name comes from. And they're stuffed with mushrooms or sauerkraut. Again, there's not supposed to be any meat product.
And I would say in our family, we had a sour white borscht. It was the only day of the year we ever had that. Busha never made that any other day. We would have it on Christmas Eve. And the sad thing about that is my mom never learned the recipe. So when Busha died, so did the recipe.
Yeah. Well, here we actually have a mushroom soup, which it's another variation of the soup that you could find on a Vigilia table. As you can see, there are actually 2 dishes that are made with poppy seed, and there is also poppy seed cake, which is very typical for Christmas time in Poland. We have fish, and we also have pierogis, where there might be a different kind of stuffing that you're going to find. You can find plums, you can find or prunes, sauerkraut, mushrooms, or just variation potatoes, cheese as well.
And basically, pierogi are Polish raviolis again, but no red sauce. It's just they're fried, they're sautéed, better yet, in butter, and if you have sweet ones, you can even put sugar on them for dessert.
Another very traditional dish is right here. It's called kutia, and it is actually a mixture of, again, poppy seed and barley. And another variation of that, this is actually pasta with all kinds of nuts, raisins, craisins, depending really, again, which part of Poland you came from. You're going to see different recipes how to prepare those.
Sure.
And here we have stuffed cabbage, which is gołąbki. And again, due to the fact you're not supposed to have meat, this is going to be vegetarian version, not what you typically have meat, but so it's going to be probably mushrooms and barley or rice stuffing.
And so these would be some of the standard things. And in addition to the opłatki, we started off with opłatki and breaking that, wishing a blessing, but then the soup would come out, because it's very typical of Polish families to start off with soup. That's just normal and quite delicious. And then go through these other dishes as part of the meal. And it would be a lot of anticipation because later on we'd be going to Christmas Eve Mass, midnight Mass, and sometimes we open presents before, sometimes not. But you know, that would be part of the anticipation.
Yes, and there's another, well, I wouldn't call it a tradition, but something that I grew up hearing around in Poland. People believe that if you have a pet or if you live in on a farm, that at midnight on Christmas Eve, your animals will be able to, you'll be able to talk to your pet or your farm animals. So I personally tried. We used to have a dog when I was growing up, and he would never want to talk to me. So I'm not sure how true that is.
Well, if you kept all the food from the dog, you'd be happy. One other thing, too, is a dessert that's very difficult for non-Polish people to say. What is that dessert called, the fried dough?
It's called chruściki. And I would probably compare it to beignet, which is, I think, French version of that, or almost like American kind of version of donuts. They're deep fried, and it's powdered sugar on top of that. We also have some apple pie here as well, or szarlotka, which is the apple crumb cake. But yeah, these are called chruściki.
Yeah, we always had a big plate of chruściki for Christmas. And I'm sure that, you know, a lot of folks, like Italians, will have 7 different fish that they eat on their Christmas Eve vigil. And a lot of other communities have their own celebrations of the foods from their area that are celebrated for Christmas Eve. And something that is important about this is that it's not just the food, but it's having this grounding, this basis in a traditional way of cooking and eating that sets a holiday apart. In some ways, I'm very glad that we never had the white borscht any other day. It made that meal special, you know, and there's something about celebrating, not just eating food whenever we feel like, oh, I got a taste for this, but celebrating these holy days with food. And I've often thought that a lot of people have been evangelized by their mothers. They've been catechized, maybe better yet. The catechesis that a lot of women give is at the kitchen table, in the, you know, where they're making food together and talking and explaining why we do specific things. You know, why would kids look for a star on Christmas? You know, these are very important elements of women catechizing their children so that the faith is woven into the rhythms of life, and also with these wonderful foods to make it extra special. Did you have much of that growing up? Were your mother explaining these things to you?
Yes, and we traditionally, actually, my mom always used to make borscht. She would make the soup. At our home, it was the red borscht that was part of the Vigilia. And my dad is responsible for making uszka. He would not let anybody else handle that. So to me, every Christmas that I get to do that with my kids, that is just remembrance of me growing up in Poland, you know, preparing the day of Christmas Eve, preparing the dishes and uszka. And like you said, I can make it every other day. It's just not going to taste the same.
No. And I think there's something that as Christmas has gotten more and more secularized, a lot of the songs that we'll hear over and over again in the department stores are not Christmas carols at all. They're sometimes silly songs about Santa having an accident with grandma in his sleigh, songs about emotions of it's nice to be home for the family, I want Christmas to be white. Most of those were not even written by Christian people, but they're nice songs, but there's no mention of Jesus. That's one of the other elements of Polish people knowing their kalender so well, that this is a way to show their dignity, using these melodies that actually come from the Polish royal court. But we sing them for God's royal court in a manger. And that God's so humble that he lets us humble people. My people in Poland were all peasants. They lived on farms, it's simple people, and had wooden barns and such. Singing about going to the manger and to the stable was part of life. And this is where they incorporated their faith into the rhythms of the food, the rhythms of their song and music, and their celebration of Jesus Christ in a life that sometimes was not always so easy. We want to thank all of you for joining us. May you have a wonderful and Merry Christmas. And may God bless you, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. And we want to conclude with one more song, kolenda, from our Polish choir singing Przybierzeli do Bethlehem. Shepherds came to Bethlehem.